Hey guys, so Prince of Persia, the game, a name you really don't hear much anymore, but apparently just had a game not too long ago, Lost Crown. Now Prince of Persia has been around for a while, like not late 80s, like 1988, 1989 long. It came out on the Nintendo, and it's had video games. It's had that movie. What was it? Jake Gyllenhaal, I think. Uh, Movie Prince of Persia. But yeah, it's been around a while. Um, but they just had Prince of Persia Lost Crown, and it says looks like another sales loser. Now, I mean, Prince of Persia games have always seemed to be pretty, you know, people tend to like them. So, what was it about this game that caused it to fail? Appears to be another sales loser for Ubisoft. The game, which was released on Steam at the beginning of August. Okay, so really not that long ago. Only hit a peak concurrent player count of 1446. It had released previously on Nintendo Switch, Xbox, PlayStation back on January 18th, 2024. In 2 months since it had been released, the game only had has game only has a 24-hour peak concurrent player count of 217, nearly 85%. Estimate sales figures appear to reflect the poor counts. VG Insight estimates the game. Wow, 38,000 copies. And while Player Tracker estimates it had sold 53,000. Huh. It's also quite possible that the game's poor numbers, along with Star Wars Outlaws and X Defiant, also accounted for Ubisoft significantly lowering its sales expectations for second quarter. But why did it fail? I mean, Prince of Persia has always been, I don't think I've ever heard anyone complain about Prince of Persia. So what was it? So if you bought Prince of the new Prince of Persia game, what is it to you? Like, is it good? The way it looks like it's more of like. Actually, we can just hang on. We'll just look it up. I'll just look it up on YouTube myself. When in doubt, go to the most reliable source, IGN. So this is for the Lost Crown review by IGN.
I fell in love with Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time way back in 2003. It helped redefine 3D action games with a clever rewind ability that enhanced its environmental puzzles and fast acrobatic combat. While the aughts saw a bunch of sequels with similar elements, none ever quite hit the same heights, and the 2010s were a parched desert for the series. But like an oasis, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown finally nails what I loved about those classic Prince of Persia games. And it does so by placing the series' best ideas within a 2D Metroidvania framework that calls back to the roots of the 1989 original.
Your life ends here.
The Lost Crown excels in both the elements that make for a great Prince of Persia: platforming and combat. By bringing the whole game to a 2D viewpoint, it's able to hone in on precise, snappy controls that always feel great, and you can always see exactly what you need to do. Like The Sands of Time and 2009's Prince of Persia reboot, The Lost Crown constitutes a reimagining of the series, striking out in its own direction but maintaining some familiarity. The enticing basics are the same. As a quick, acrobatic protagonist, you explore a massive, semi-ruined location covered in deadly traps and filled with various soldiers and monsters you must overcome with strength and cunning. And, of course, time shenanigans are afoot.
What is this sorcery?
The similarities end there, though, as The Lost Crown tells a new story based on Persian mythology, leaning into an adventure filled with cool characters that are often pretty interesting, although the plot can get tripped up in its details and delivery as you explore the maze-like map. At the heart heart of the tale are the Immortals, a group of 7 nearly superheroic warriors dispatched to the legendary Mount Kaf to rescue the kidnapped Prince of Persia. You play as Sargon, the youngest and most brash of the group. His struggles both with proving his place among the Immortals and with chasing down his mentor, who is responsible for the kidnapping, make him a compelling character throughout the twisty, though somewhat predictable journey.
What is this all about?
I wasn't planning on killing you, Sargon. Stay out of this.
Sargon.
Okay, so first, I love the way the game looks, going back to its roots in with like the whole Nintendo style, where it was, side scrolling, and I maybe think that might be one reason, because a lot of people don't remember Prince of Persia, that it was on the Nintendo, and they were so familiar with Sands of Time. So going from, these 3D experiences to 2D, or not 2D, but side scrolling from 3D world to like a side scrolling. But I mean, I love the art. Even though it's a side scroller, the areas are incredibly beautiful, design wise, detail. Everything seems to pop, so not super bright, but like very vivid, and you can tell where everything is, even in the background, even the stuff you can see shaded in the background, you can still tell what it is. And always good to see good water effects. I mean, the monsters and the bosses that we've seen so far in this little review seem to be pretty cool. But yeah, I think one reason is that people forgot that it was started out on Nintendo as a side scroller. I was like, well, why would they go back to that? Why not? Why would, look at the new Zelda game? Kind of it's not exactly top-down perspective, but why would they go from like Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom to, like a top-down type? Because you can. That's the joy of making games. But
is a capable fighter from the start, and the fact that you have plenty of tools in combat right away is a huge part of why it works so well. Fighting enemies is as compelling as exploring the sprawling map, thanks to combat that emphasizes speed, reaction time, and pressing your advantage. Sargon's speed is his greatest strength, and even basic enemies hit hard enough that you always need to be reading their movements. The threat that most enemies present kept every battle exciting and important across my 25 hours in Mount Kaf, even on the normal difficulty mode, and the fun comes from learning to master everything at your disposal. One of the Lost Crown's best ideas is to increase its focus on melee action beyond what you might expect from a typical Metroidvania. Think almost Sekiro meets Devil May Cry. Your focus in fights is on creating and maintaining combos that can give you an advantage. Kicking smaller enemies into the air allows you to juggle them, while you can sneak behind larger enemies to evade their blows. In addition to regular strikes, upward and downward attacks, and aerial maneuvers, Sargon also has moves that follow from dodges and slides, and heavier attacks that can be charged up or changed depending on when you execute them within a chain. All of his attacks are simple and easy to execute, but still made him feel like a fierce warrior at all times, especially as I learned how to read opponents and pull off combos that allowed me to absolutely dominate them. Adding to the thrill is the fact that combat is so damn stylish. Sargon and the other immortals who appear as NPCs zip across battlefields at impossible speeds as bright colors splash over the background. Parrying specific powerful attacks even triggers a quick execution cutscene that eliminates regular enemies outright. Miss a parry, however, and the Lost Crown will show you just how bad you messed up. Flashy sequences also mark Sargon's unlockable Athra Surge abilities, which have to be charged up by damaging enemies. These let you do things like throw several foes into the air at once, create a healing field, or fire a hugely powerful arrow with flair. Never is combat better than in boss battles, though. All the same rules of regular battles apply, with attacks that can be parried and some that trigger counters to land a huge, cinematic hit. But bosses all have similar tools to your own, like unparryable moves and even their own Aether abilities that you have to learn and avoid. One boss trounced me again and again by snagging me with his Kratos-like chain weapon. Every time I failed to link my jumps together to avoid it, I got humiliated by a killer cutscene as he smashed me into the ground with a lightning strike-like blast of energy. These moments come across like gods clashing, and the Lost Crown's bosses having abilities similar to yours makes them feel like true contests of skill. The other half of the Lost Crown is its platforming gauntlet. As with combat, platforming is consistently excellent. Most of the abilities you'll unlock while making your way through Mount Koth will be familiar to Metroidvania fans. Staples like a double jump, a mid-air dash, and a grapple. With its platforming, the Lost Crown doesn't break the mold, but it does execute everything it attempts exceptionally well. Some really great, challenging level design will put you through your paces, dodging swinging blades and avoiding spikes, and the obstacles you face never feel cheap or frustrating. The Lost Crown does discard the time-rewinding power that has defined most of the Prince of Persia games. Instead, when you fail a platforming section, you're just returned to the last chunk of solid ground you touched with a little damage. It isn't as thematically neat, but it is a functionally quicker, cleaner approach to allowing you to adjust for your errors. It's rare that a platforming section feels too long or is annoying to repeat, since you can just make additional attempts almost instantly, and you can only really suffer consequences when you fully run out of health. Mount Koth itself is a big map with a lot of impressive areas. Again, the ideas at play here aren't rewriting the Metroidvania playbook, but they serve very well to provide a lot of variety and interesting obstacles. Each area has its own vibes, enemies, and ideas, like an underground pirate harbor filled with explosives and ambushes, and an academy area where keeping quiet is necessary to avoid a towering, overzealous, blind librarian. You'll revisit each location over and over again as you unlock new abilities, and they're all different enough that return trips remain interesting even late into the campaign. The Lost Crown also lets you snap a photo of any spot where you see something you can't currently reach or a puzzle you don't yet understand, which adds the image to your map. It's a brilliant system that every Metroidvania should emulate, as it encourages you to find everything Mount Koth has to offer and cuts down on the irritating need to scour every single corner. My favorite location was a sea battle frozen in time, where you can walk on waves mid-crash. As you progress, you eventually restart time for part of the area, forcing you to travel through the stormy battle even as other parts of the location are still frozen, creating a very cool effect. But it was elements like this that made me wish The Lost Crown leaned harder into its broken flow of time premise, which is more something characters talk about than something that actually happens on screen. Characters will mention seeing different versions of the Immortals, or even claim they've interacted with Sargon before you've met them throughout the story. But The Lost Crown doesn't fully explore these fascinating ideas. In fact, at points, it instead felt like I had outright missed something.
Hours for you, days for me, years for Ardashir's man.
The same is true of one of the Lost Crown's side characters, who disappeared at one point, never to be seen again. And I had one minor side quest that never seemed to advance correctly. Additionally, the relatively open, interconnected world of Mount Koth sometimes plays against the story that takes place within it, where taking a certain path can cause you to miss events or reach them slightly out of order. Even after I finished, the whole tale seemed to have a few lingering plot holes.
You're still like a stone skipping across the water.
As much as I liked the characters throughout, its conclusion was somewhat unsatisfying due to what seemed like missing pieces. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown captures not only what made games such as The Sands of Time so good, but it irons out a lot of the little issues that plagued the 3D games in this series by opting for a 2D perspective, and it owns that choice. It also works extremely well as a traditional Metroidvania, sticking with tried and true elements of the genre, but executing them with precision. The story can feel a bit jumbled at times, but it's the fast and fun combat system, the tight and satisfying controls, and the stylish look and feel that elevates Sargon's journey and makes The Lost Crown a worthy successor to the best of the Prince of Persia legacy. For more recent Metroidvanias, check out
I'm disappointed. I was so hoping they would stick with their usual 7. But the game looks cool. So why is it failing? Why is it failing? I mean, are the controls not as fluid as they should be? Like, does it feel like it lags a bit, with input, or it's just the story, or what? Because I saw this game and it looked really cool. Really big bosses, which always a plus. Are they people mad that no rewind? I mean, so I'm trying to figure out, because we just watched it. So what are people? Why did it not sell? Was there no marketing behind it? I mean, because I know I really didn't hear anything about it. So I mean, was the marketing bad? Is the game just bad, and IGN is just shilling as normal, or like what's the issue here? Why did it sell so little? Because I'm looking at it and I'm thinking this is a game I would play. If I had the money, I would. I'm sitting here thinking, like, if I had the money, it looks really cool. I'd buy it right now if I could. So again, was it the fact that it was side scroller? Was it? I mean, what was it? What was it? Sometimes I think when things don't sell very well, it's usually the marketing. I don't know. I don't remember seeing anything for the game. But I like the fact of the whole, like Metroid games are like that. Later installments of Castlevania were like that. Hollow Knight is like that, where it's just one big map, like a maze. And it's like, oh, you go all the way over here on the map, but there's like, oh no, there's a door I can't get through right now because I need a certain move or spell or whatever. So then you got to go, all the way back, and then you find it, and it's like all the way down there, and then you got to go all the way back, and then this is like a shortcut to over here, but it's like also a new area you haven't been to. But I like games that are like that, because it kind of makes you remember where everything is. I remember playing the first time playing Hollow Knight and seeing how large that map was. Trying to remember. It's like, okay, I got this move. I can go back. I can do this now. Where was it? And then you find that sometimes they lead to new areas, and those new areas have shortcuts back to other places, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that, and I was wondering what that was. It turns out it was a shortcut that lets you hop to the other side of the map. But I'm failing to see why it would sell so bad. So if anyone's played it, let me know, because I'm genuinely curious about why it sold so little and why so few people are playing it.
exception.
Like I like that. I don't get it. Is there like hardly any replay factor, or like what's the problem? But yeah, let me know. I mean, the game looks really good. It looks really good. So anyway, like I said, let me know if you've got the game, or someone who's got the game, and is it worth is it worth it, or is it like, yeah, it's bad. Let me know. But anyway, that's gonna do it for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.